All right, it is 6 p.m. and I would like to call this special meeting to order. Please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And I skipped a step. Robin, will you please call the roll?
Vaughn.
Here.
Hayden Champosi.
Here.
Mosef.
Here.
Ryard.
Here.
Pring.
Here.
Schmidt.
Here.
Josie.
Here.
Carpenter Davis.
Here. All right, since this is a special meeting, we will only be considering the items listed on our agenda this evening. We have one public hearing this evening related to the adoption of a tax increment financing redevelopment project plan for Rock Creek Redevelopment District Number 3C, which was continued from our May 20th, 2026 meeting. I will now officially open the public hearing. Is there anyone attending in person or online who is not present for the May 20th, 2026 presentation? Don't see anyone. Laura, will you begin your presentation?
Well, actually,
Are you going to do an abbreviated version?
actually, it's the pleasure of the council. I can either do an abbreviated presentation, but everybody here has heard our presentation and it is available online.
Okay.
With the video. So we can open it up
Okay.
for any other public comment and then answer questions that anyone might have. But obviously there'll be opportunity for council discussion once we take up the ordinance later on the agenda.
Okay. Perfect. So since we do not have any new members, we will skip our formal presentation and proceed directly to public comment. Again, the video from our May 20th public hearing is available on the city's website. Do we have any members of the public who would like to comment? Seeing no one in person or online, we will we will close our public hearing on the adoption of a tax increment financing redevelopment project plan for Rock Creek Redevelopment District Number 3C. This item will be voted on next in our meeting agenda tonight. So our first action item this evening is for adoption of a TIF redevelopment project plan and authorization of an amended and restated redevelopment agreement with Encore Land LLC. Ms. Smith, can you please provide a report about this item?
Yes, and I just had a message from Mr. Floodman who got stuck behind an accident on I-35. So he's fine, but he should be here shortly. Delayed him a little bit longer than he anticipated. So as we discussed at our May 20th meeting, in order to take final action and for consideration of the TIF redevelopment project plan and the potential incentives that have been requested for the Encore project, before you this evening is an ordinance that would do two things. Let me get to the right page. So the ordinance would make certain findings and adopt the redevelopment project plan, which has been through all of the required, statutorily required steps in terms of being found in conformance with the city's comprehensive plan by the Planning Commission earlier this year. Public hearing, which was opened on May 20th. You may recall there were no public comments that were received at that meeting, and then continued to this evening and just closed by the mayor. So that would be part of the ordinance is adoption of that redevelopment project plan. And then also, excuse me, within that same ordinance would be approval and execution of amended and restated redevelopment agreement between the city and Encore Land. And so it's amended and restated from the initial phase 2 project that was approved previously by the council. So just briefly, for the record, this is the zoning entitlements are for a 5-story, 168 unit multifamily development. Oh no, that was the 2020 project. This is 180 units to the east of the lanes that is going to encompass all of the parcels to Roland Drive, which would include the city's transit parking and the former Wendy's property, along with the parking lot to the south of the former Security Bank, now Walls Tetrick building. As you know, the developers requested TIF incentives for the project. We've taken steps earlier this year to reconfigure the redevelopment district 3C so that we had to make some amendments to the boundaries of that district to pick up the additional parcels that were added. And as I mentioned before, the Planning Commission did review the TIF redevelopment project plan and found it to be in conformance with the comprehensive land use plan. One thing I did want to note, and this was noted in the packet, that following the May 20th meeting, in conversations between the developer and our bond counsel, we updated the TIF project plan that had previously been included to reflect the current budget and TIF increment estimates that were provided and presented to you at that May 20th meeting, and formed the basis for the recommendations that we made at that time. In your packet, we included a clean copy of that redevelopment agreement, and then not a full redline copy, but we just redlined the sections within that agreement that changed. None of those changes impacted any revenue or public incentive benefits that were presented at the May 20th meeting, but we want to make sure that that project plan aligns with the numbers that you all reviewed and considered. As you know, prior to the approval of any TIF incentives, you have to conduct a public hearing. We have met that requirement with the May 20th and then the continuation this evening. We have negotiated an agreement which was presented to you all at the May 20th meeting, which is essentially the contract between the city and the developer and memorializes all of the negotiated terms. That includes, and I'll just hit some of those highlights. As far as a development schedule, which is included as Exhibit C, construction commencement by October 1st of this year. Yes. Hey, Mr. Floodman. And project completion no later than December 31st of 2028. Project budget is included as Exhibit D, and as I mentioned, that is the exhibit that was changed out to be reflective of the costs that we reviewed on May 20th. The developer will achieve LEED Silver certification with the building. That's section 2.12 in the agreement, and Exhibit F outlines and details the sustainability considerations. The developer will reserve 20% of the units, which equates to 36 apartments in the project, at 60% of AMI for the duration of the 20-year TIF term. So the attainable housing requirement, similar to what was incorporated and included in the agreement for the Lanes project, meets one of the goals that has been identified by the council. Those units are to be spread throughout the property, so not clustered in any one particular location, and include no less than 12 studio, 21 bedroom, and 4 2-bedroom units. The developer, as a part of the development agreement terms, is required to provide an annual report that they are in compliance with the attainable housing requirements in the contract. And they have provided and are providing that information on the lane. So we would expect them to do the same thing for the Encore project. Industrial revenue bond, section 3.02, just outlines the city's intent to issue IRBs to facilitate the sales tax exemption on construction materials. There's a second item on our agenda this evening, which is an amendment to that resolution of intent to issue the IRBs. But we capture that commitment in the development agreement. Project financing, as you know, there are no bonds that are being issued in connection with this project. It is a pay-as-you-go reimbursement structure. There is a reimbursement cap for private TIF eligible expenses of 10.28 million. And you'll recall, I believe, I don't have Mr. Kimmel's memo here, but that we were under a 6% return on investment for the developer based on that TIF cap. And then there's a TIF revenue sharing structure between the developer and the city. Years 1 through 5, the developer would receive 90%, city 10%, years 6 to 10, developer at 85%, city at 15, years 11 through 15, 75% to developer, 25% to the city in years 16 through 20, 70% to the developer, 30% to the city. So that is actually higher. Those are higher revenue sharing percentages in the final years of this TIF agreement than what were included in the Lanes agreement. The agreement stipulates purchase of the city-owned transit lot for $250,000 by August 1st of 2026, with a reversionary interest retained by the city if the project were not to proceed. And then an ongoing reservation of 23 parking spaces within the parking garage to be dedicated for public use and transit center use. The agreement addressed one of the things we didn't finalize through this process yet was a specific design for garage screening. The developer has incorporated that and has committed to approval for garage screening approved by the council by December 31st of this year. And an agreement to coordinate 23 temporary parking spaces during the construction. So we will not lose transit center parking at any point during the construction of the project. I won't go through all of these things, but then the agreement always outlines all of the things that would create an event of default under the agreement, as well as the remedies to default that would be available to the city. And so those can include anything from withholding reimbursements, termination of the redevelopment agreement, termination of the entire TIF district, or any other remedies available at in law or equity. I think with that, I would stand for questions. I know Mr. Floodman is here. We're happy to answer any additional questions the council may have on this project.
Okay. First, we'll open it up to public comment. Do we have any members of the public who would like to comment on this item? Seeing none, we'll open it up for council discussion. Any council comments or questions? Yeah, Ben?
Yeah, Laura, I was just curious, and this sort of jogged my memory, I guess, since you mentioned temporary parking spaces. Did you all happen to discuss sidewalk or trail closure or any mitigation around that? I know that's another tough one.
We haven't yet, but we will when we get into the actual construction approval process and we have a sense of timing and phasing and all of those kinds of things. But yes, duly noted that the expectation is that the trail will be open as much as possible.
Awesome. Thank you.
Other comments or questions? Laura, I know we highlighted it at our last meeting, but it might be good to hit on in connection with the TIF revenue sharing, how the city's portion of that works and what we might be able to use that for that we already have as foreseeable projects.
Mayor, I meant to touch on that and I did not. So I think one of the things that we reviewed in the May 20th meeting and the materials that we've looked at is, and I referenced the private TIF eligible expenses were capped at about 10.3 million. The estimated city TIF revenues that will be generated through those revenue sharing percentages over the 20-year life of the TIF term are approximately $2.89 or $2.9 million. That is compared to about $150,000 in existing property tax revenues that would be generated over that same 20-year period. Now, again, it's not an apples to apples comparison because we don't know what could be developed or might be developed there. But certainly, as we've emphasized through our conversations, this council has always been interested in ensuring that we are generating as much, if not more, revenue from the properties where incentives are being considered or granted than prior to those incentives being granted. From the TIF revenue sharing, and I think I've heard a couple of council people say they've heard from constituents saying, what does this mean and how am I actually paying for this development? And so, as we know, in a tax increment financing district, we're looking at increasing the development, increasing those underlying values. And so we still retain the property tax on that base. When we have revenue sharing, we're able to use that portion to build or construct or make public eligible improvements within the district. That could include streets, that could include stormwater, et cetera. And within this specific district, we've had a lot of conversation about the fact that we have significant expenses, both related to stormwater and potentially to a street project that is on the horizon in 28 and 29, where these dollars could be applied to offset. Now, while that is not a one-to-one offset for residents' contribution to property tax, we know that stormwater utility fees are paid exclusively by our residents, as are the property taxes, and we're contributing a significant portion of property taxes to our street program annually. So we're in that way able to relieve some of that burden on the general taxpayers by including those on that TIF revenue sharing. So does that?
Yeah, I think, and so, and just to highlight, you mentioned the amount of taxes that we'll be receiving will stay the same because of that base. And then also these TIF revenues that have a limited purpose will actually be higher than what we would have gotten in property tax, even with the improved project.
Correct.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think that is important to highlight because it's not like we have to go looking for projects that need doing in that area. The projects that we're talking about using those TIF eligible dollars on are things that were already in our plans, right?
Well, and I think that's an important distinction. We've touched on the things that this project incorporates related to sustainability and attainable housing that are values of the council. The infrastructure investment is something as well, and that is certainly something that we can actually measure in dollars and cents right out of the gate.
Any other comments or questions?
We have a
Oh,
question.
yep, Debbie?
No, I'm not in favor of TIFs and tax abatements, but I would ask, if we are doing a sales tax exemption on materials, does the city have a right or an option to weigh in on what kind of materials are used on the facade and around the apartment building?
Yes, and that is handled during the preliminary development plan stage. Yeah, the construction and I'm sorry, final development plan. So we have that opportunity when a project goes through the zoning entitlement process to talk about materials, finishes, landscaping, all of those various components. That's the mechanism by which we do that.
And then specific to this project, there's also the garage screening, which you
Right.
mentioned, which will be a
Yes.
really substantial design element, I would say.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I would ask that Mr. Floodman, if you have any time, go to an area at 89th and Quivira on the east side of the street. It's called Watercross. Absolutely beautiful. It's a mixture of stone, brick, and regular wood, and very pretty. So
Okay, seeing no other questions, I would entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move the city council approve the ordinance making certain findings and one, adopting a redevelopment project plan for redevelopment district number 3C, and two, approving the execution of an amended and restated redevelopment agreement between the city and Encore Land LLC.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Robin, please call the roll.
Peter and Chakotay,
Aye.
Pring,
nay,
Ryder,
Aye.
Vaughn,
aye.
Carpenter Davis,
Aye.
Mosa,
Aye.
Josie,
Aye.
Schmidt,
Aye.
motion carries.
All right, thank you. Our last action item this evening is for approval of a resolution amending resolution number 1203 and establishing the city's continued intent to issue industrial revenue bonds for the Encore multifamily project. Ms. Smith, do you have an additional report about this item?
I do not. If the council has any questions.
All right, do we have any member of the public who would like to comment on this item? Seeing none, any council comments or questions about this piece? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move the city council approve the resolution amending resolution number 1203 to one, increase the authorized principal amount of industrial revenue bonds from 22 million to an amount not to exceed 25 million. Two, consent to the assignment of rights under the resolution of intent from Mission Bowl Apartments LLC to Encore Land LLC. And three, extend the term of the resolution of intent related to the proposed Encore multifamily project.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Robin, please call the roll.
Josie,
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Pring,
Nay,
Mosa,
Aye.
Peter and Chakotay,
Aye.
Schmidt,
Aye.
Ryder,
Aye.
carries.
All right, before we adjourn tonight, I want to share with the public that the video from this meeting will be available through a link on our website at missionks.org. There being no further business, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
so moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.
That was